G'day, folk. I am tonight. Thank you very much. G'day, folk. Welcome to another Thursday night live around the campfire. Tonight, it's a bit of a special night for me. I was hoping to get dad jokes up and running, but due to my technical skills, which are improving greatly, I'm sitting here with Alan tonight because I actually thought it'd be a good idea if Alan and I got together and actually sat down and shared what the Campfire Project means to us, what our passions are, why we do the things we are, and basically open ourselves up to questions to anybody. So thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
But before I say thank you for the campfire, I want to say thank you for giving me an opportunity, giving me a platform to grow and a place to grow, because the Campfire Project to me is something that I just adore. I adore the people in it. I adore the growth every time I listen to a conversation, and I can't believe that I'm sitting here with you having an opportunity. But because of, and I'll let you talk in a sec, but I would like to share with people, and I know you and I have talked about it before, but it's really important for people outside of the panels, for me to hear how we met, because I am just a kid from Keezy, who's having a crack at life. But the story of how we met is really important, because I decided to upgrade myself and go and do a course with Ben
Harvey.
Ben Harvey, thank you very much for doing well. And learning to do some public speaking, because I thought that'd be important going into the future. And I've walked into a room with probably 150 odd people where we're there for a 6-day conference to improve our public speaking skills. And we're about day 3 in, and I get to present for the very first time my story to Alan Stevens. At this time, I didn't know who he was. Thank God. I would have been in a world of trouble. But I stood there and I'm giving my best, and I've looked at you, Alan, and I've gone, this guy doesn't want to know anything about me. He doesn't want to know what I've got to say. There's no way known he's interested in me. I'm a 6'1" guy, fairly burly, with a bit of presence, and I was not intimidated, but so insecure about my own abilities. And I'm going to let you go from there, Alan, because I want to put a bit back onto that at the end of it, if that's okay.
Okay, well, Scott just looked at me and he said, "You're not going to like or whatever it was that you were about to say." And so, being the sort of person I am, I just sat there, did not make a sound, did not respond, did not have any expression on my face, and just made it as difficult as I possibly could just to prove a point. And Scott then, we had to wait a while Ben was getting everybody in the room organised, because a whole bunch of people presenting to other people. So we're broken into groups of 3, and you were presenting to me, and the third person was off practicing. So divide the full number by 3. That's how many people are going to speak. And the end result, Scott then finally got the chance to tell his story. And again, we had to sit there before I could give a critique. We had to wait for everyone to finish. So that was another very long, pregnant pause. And I just had no expression on my face whatsoever, no movement. And I remembered Scott looked like he was starting to perspiration run down the face. And then finally, when we were told we could critique, I just went, "Wow!" That's absolutely brilliant. I loved it. So Scott had made the mistake of discounting himself, thinking that his story wasn't good enough. His story was absolutely bloody brilliant, and I really enjoyed it. And as I said to him, don't judge a book by its cover, unless you've got the skills to look through the cover.
Well, you didn't exactly let that be known for a bit either, just quietly. And I really want to thank you for that, because I want to share the reason why I want to open with that. Because what isn't known is I nearly walked out of that course. After day 2, I I'm like, I'm in a room of people that I didn't belong. I felt like I had no place being there. I felt, who am I to sit here amongst these people and try and share my story? 12 months on, I'm here with you. So the whole part of that for me is, if you like what I'm putting out, you like what I'm being a part of, you can do it.
Mm.
You really can. And your story is bloody important. And the more I'm a part of the campfire, the more I realize just how important the campfire is, because we get to share our stories, we get to grow. And I often talk about our growth inside the campfire and you know how I personally have grown. Like if I went back 12 months and looked at some of the stuff I did back then, you know, like I'm continually growing. So I think that's absolutely awesome. G'day, Adam. How are you, mate? Thanks for tuning in. But that in itself, and Adam's going to be a prime example of that, because you know it's another guy who's coming to the campfire who's starting to grow. So from me to you, Alan, one, thank you for entrusting me with this. But more importantly, it is for everybody.
Mm.
So with that, what does the Campfire Project mean to you?
Well, it's something that I'd had a burning passion to do for a long time, because it was my background, what I went through, and I just realised that, and what I could see in society. You know, I've been through a lot of things as a kid. I'd raised 3 boys on my own, always worrying about where they were going to be, what was going to happen there. I'm a grandfather of 5 with 1 on the way, so it'll be 6 in the not too distant future. And I just realised that the most important thing, because I grew up very much alone. I'd pull back from everybody. I was pretty angry as a kid. It's the only way I really survived, because I tried taking my life when I was very young because of the bullying and feeling like I didn't belong. And I think that burning passion for me to feel like I had a place where I belonged, I then realised that while I was doing all this, there were so many other people who felt the same way. And I thought, right, why should other people go through what I went through if they don't have to? And if I'm going to contribute, then the Campfire Project would be a good way to do it. It followed the lines of the first side of it was the Aboriginal side of things. That was bringing boys into manhood. And the second side is through the Freemasons, which is about helping good men to become better men. And with the Aboriginal side, it's love, humility and respect. And with the Freemasons, it's brotherly love, relief and truth. And so bring the boys into manhood, but then what do you do with them? Well, again, I just saw those 2 completely different societies just so connected in their philosophies and everything else. And so the Campfire Project's come out of it, and it's not so much what I've done for anybody, but you guys have no idea what I get out of the fact that everybody's part of this. It's given me such a value to the life that I've lived, to realise that, hey, this is what everything's been around. This makes it all worthwhile. So I'm very humble and very appreciative of everyone who's here, including the people who just sit in the background who are just listening in, because they are part of the campfire as well. And everybody, as you said, has a story, and every story, because it's your story, is important. And the stories, I'll give you an example. I was travelling in Sydney one day, and I got into the train going back to Central, a couple of stations, and I just got in, and there was the little section. I didn't want to go up the stairs or down the stairs. I just went into the side section of the carriage on the same level. And there's a guy off the streets in there, and everyone had moved away from him. Because he was filthy and everything else. And I thought, I'm too lazy to walk up the stairs. I'm only going a couple of stations. So I sat down opposite him, and we got into a conversation. It was the best conversation I'd had. The intelligence, the experience and everything else. I almost missed my stop. I didn't want to get out. I just enjoyed the conversation. Everybody has a story, and every story is valuable because it's your story. If you're sitting in the background and you'd like to step up, we'd love to have you come and chat with us. And if you don't feel comfortable with having a chat with me or with Scott, the person who brought you into the Campfire Project, who's introduced you, get them to interview you. Because anybody who's in the Campfire Project can interview somebody else, and as long as they're in the Campfire Project as well.
Yeah, and that's an awesome. Absolutely, it is, and that's one of the things that I'm learning most about the Campfire Project is the community. Because although I've come into the Campfire through you, and we're clearly doing some amazing things, always discussing new opportunities, I'm having a lot of conversations outside of the Campfire that come from the Campfire. I know Lisa Jane, I've done a lot. John Hope's been amazing, supporting each other. You know, like it's Kenny Marmarella, like just I can keep naming the names, but at the end of the day, it's a community of people that actually want to help each other and help each other grow. So for that purpose, like I can think of no better place than the Campfire Project for that. So can I ask a question, because it's something that I personally don't know much about and I'd like to learn from you. The Freemasons, and that's been a part of your life for how many years?
Well, the Aboriginal side's been about 18 years and the Freemasons have been about 10 years.
Okay. So you're still a part of the Freemasons?
Yep.
Yep. Do you enjoy that?
Yeah. A lot of people may think that, well, the Freemasons is a secret society. Well, that would be the same then of every church, the Aboriginal community. They're not. They're a society with secrets. And if you think of a rite of passage of a boy coming into manhood, there are certain things that aren't shared with the boy until he gets to a certain stage. He hasn't earned the right yet, but he learns it at that point because that's what takes him into the next stage. So there are secrets, but when you've got the right to learn those secrets, then that's when you get those. It's the same thing in the Freemasons. You know, there are rituals, and rituals is a way in which we learn and we grow. It's part of our healing as well. So it's not a secret. It's not a secret society. It's a society with secrets, and it's something that it gives you some discipline. There's the things that we learn, the different procedures. There are a lot of things that we learn by heart because we don't write those things down. They're kept secret. But when you meet somebody else who's been through it, same with Aboriginal side through initiation. Once you've been through something with somebody, there's a bond, there's a connection. And as I said, the Freemasons are about brotherly love, relief and truth, relief being charity. And it's about helping men to become better men. And in every case, if you bring boys into manhood or you help men to become better men, in both cases, the recipients of that are their partners, are their children, are their community. So we don't fix a problem in one area. We work with the men and they then fix every area. It's like saying, okay, I'm white or I'm black or anything else, or I'm male or I'm a female. I just work in that area. We are everybody else's environment. So whatever we do impacts on everybody else. And so the Campfire Project, originally the men thought it was just for men. But if they'd bothered to look at the membership list, they would have seen a lot of women in here from day one. And I'd asked a few ladies that I really respected to come in, and that was give them an opportunity to hear what men can be like and how they can speak when they've got a safe place to do it. At the same time, it gave a chance for the women then. It was also to test to see if the women would respect the men. And they did exactly what I thought they would do. They really respected them. We had the panel discussions, and I knew, especially some of the women I'd brought in, they could not keep quiet at that point. They just sent me personal messages saying, we love these guys. We've never heard men talk that way before. We want to be part of this. And I went, that was another thing that I planned in the first stage, another tick I put on the box, another box I've ticked. Brilliant.
Oh, look, I love when a plan comes together. But I do want to talk a little bit about that, though, the men's groups, women's groups, and also men and women coming together, because I run a social health group for men. I focus on building better role models within my community, because if I build better role models with kids will have better lives, basically, I'm going to focus on building a society through that. But a lot of my learning is coming back and going into the Campfire, where it is a we together. But I find that men's groups in particular are just so important for my growth and my safety to test the water before I bring it back to a we together type campaign, because you need a sounding board, you know, and to have a group of peers that will do that for you, I think is fantastic. So your thoughts on that?
Well, just go back and look at the men's groups first of all. We need more men's groups, the same as women need more groups for them. We all need our particular place. Yes, we come together, but we need our own time as well. We can't be the best for everybody else unless we are the best for ourselves. And a men's group is where a man can go along and work through the issues that have been holding them back through their life. But then when they think they've got it together, how do they know they got it together? It's like being at school and doing a course, doing a degree at university. You don't know how good you are until you leave school and you go out into the workplace and you apply it. So a lot of the men will go out from the men's groups, but we've got a lot of people out in the wider, colder world, both men and women, who are quite happy being where they are. They don't want to see any growth. They've got their agendas that they're running, or they've got those secondary issues, secondary gains, as they say, that they have to stay broken, and therefore they want everybody else to be broken, so they feel justified to be the way they are. So they will attack those men. And then the men think, well, I haven't got it right, and they run back to the men's group. But by having the women, and the women we've got in here are really special. They have treated the men with such respect. The men can deal and talk to them and then know that they have got where they needed to go, where they were trying to get to by being in the men's group. Here's a sounding board where they can show that, yes, I'm there. So when they do go out into the colder world and the trolls, both men and women, start to attack them, they can just go, that's their problem. That's not mine. And they can realise it's got nothing to do with them, but it's got everything to do with those other people. It's their stuff.
Yeah.
And so this was not a replacement for men's groups or women's groups. It wasn't putting them down. I just saw it as being the next stage where people could then, both men and women, could realise, yes, we've found that we've done everything. The women would then be treated by the men here with respect. And so they would then know the work they've done on themselves has also been successful. And they can enjoy each other's company and say, this is what the world should be like. This is what our community should be like. And the women look at the men and go, they're the sort of men we want in our life. The others we don't want. And the men could look at the women and go, my God, that's the sort of woman I want in my life.
Well, you got to have a target to aim for, don't you? And that's part of the thing for me, with being, I'm trying to be the best possible version of me so that Oscar gets to see that. I talk a lot about Oscar, but he's a big driver in what I do. I want to say a big thank you to Kylie and to Angela for popping up the beautiful comments they've thrown up. I'm sort of reserving them a bit. So there you go. So yeah, and thank you. But here's the amazing part of the campfire. I sit here with Kylie, I sit here with Angela, and I'm free to ask what I need to ask so I can grow without fear, without prejudice, and I'm allowed to make mistakes in these conversations that I don't feel I'm allowed to make those same mistakes in society. So, and it's never a correction. It's a lesson that's given by the panels. And when you sit on the panels and you sit there and you listen to people, I find I grow immensely because I get to hear different opinions. Whether I agree or not, it's irrelevant. It's another opportunity to hear a different side of something. So what are your experiences with the panels? What do you gain most out of those panels?
Half the time when I'm listening to them, I'm going, can I keep up with these guys? There's some brilliant stuff that comes through, and I'm hearing all this stuff and it's coming through in a flood, and I'm trying to make comments to bring it together, and I'm trying, because so much of it, I can't think fast enough to bring it together. It's absolutely magic, but we're hearing, we've had people say, oh, look, I believe, I don't really feel that way, but, I respect your feelings on it. And I think this is the way it should be, because if we all had the same views on everything, my God, it'd be a shit boring world.
Yeah.
There'd be no growth, because we'd just be, everything's fine, and we'd just stay at that level. So we need to be able to really step up and to be able to listen to other people's point of view and go, hey, I don't quite agree with that, but if I don't agree with it, what I prefer to say to somebody is, look, can you explain to me how that works? Because in that process, number one, I'm in a conversation with them. Number two is that they may say something that's profound that I've never thought of before, which allows me to see things in a different light. Or they could may change their view as well. And we may just look at the end of the day and say, oh, well, that's your view, and this is my view. But, hey, you have the right to your view, and I respect that. And do it not just in saying because that's what we've expected to say, but say it because we mean it.
Yeah.
And realise that, their view, they bring something else to the table. Everybody on the planet, because of the profiling work I do, I know is uniquely different from each other. There are no two people the same. As like fingerprints are different. Even the shape of your skull, there is no two skulls on the planet that are identical. So therefore, and that's the skull shape is, it's around the growth of your brain over all those years. That's why the sutures expand and the brain, before it seals up, the brain grows, and there's no two brains of the same shape. So it means that there's no two people on the planet that are the same. And so therefore, everybody has a gift. And our job, if we don't want to miss out, is to look for the gift in the other people. If we can see the gift in the other people, that enriches our life.
I'm with you on that. That's my philosophy in life. Like I truly believe everybody has something to teach me. There's, like we talked about it the other night when we were sitting down with Mick, yourself, and Zoe, and we talked about the pen. I brought up a pen. We all look at this pen. We all agree it's a pen, but none of us can think about the pen exactly the same way because we've all written different things. We've all had different experiences with that pen. So there's no two ways to look at the pen. Humans are exactly the same. It's impossible to actually be exactly the same because, and that's what for me, my eyes have just lit up because that's the beautiful part of people. People have different experiences, both good and bad, and neither are wrong. As Angela was saying, they're pleasurable and unpleasurable. And for me, I've taken that on because I think it's so damn important that we just experience the experience, sit with it, look for a lesson inside it. If it's a bad experience, yeah, okay, I don't like this, but I can learn from this. I can find those lessons, and it's funny. I've got a few things up on the board here I want to talk about, and one of them is passions. And for me, passion, people are my passion because I truly believe that, for order for us to be the best possible versions of ourselves, we've got to accept other people as they are and actually choose to learn from them. Sorry, I'm getting all giggly because it's, I chase smiles. I truly chase smiles. I chase people as we walk down the street, and if I try and get that smile out of them, and when they smile with their eyes and it comes back, it's the warmest thing. Like, you've walked down the street with me. It's like, I love it. I love engaging with people because it just brings about a warmth. So,
and if anybody's wondering out there, if you've ever walked with Scott, you'll know you can never get from A to B very fast. He stops and everybody.
Look, there's just so much beauty in people, like it's so real. I'm just going to pop this up with from Angela. Even the people we disagree with can be a gift. As long as we come from respect, there's always something to learn, and that is so damn true, and the respect can simply be, grateful for the fact that you're about to learn something, and I just love that. So I'm going to ask you, what are your passions? What are the things that get you out of bed in the morning?
Me is because of the work I do, everything I do now is based on building relationships. All the profiling work, the customers I work with, the parents, the friends that I've got. You've got Kylie. I met her about 10 years ago, and that was with her son, and we've had a friendship all the way through. People come to me to be clients, and they come to me as clients, but they stay as friends, and that's what really makes my life light up. Now, I grew up on my own. I grew up in a house where my father died when I was 3. I had my mother and sister who I was really not connected. My sister's a lovely woman, lovely lady, but I was never really connected to her. It wasn't until I was about 38 and I went through my first divorce that we really connected. And so I'd missed that connection with her in all that time. So I was pretty much a loner. So relationships, funny enough, what do I specialize in now? How to build relationships. 2 divorces, a lot of relationship problems, business partners who emptied the bank. What else am I going to do but work on relationships? And that's my industry. But when I work with somebody and I see them learn about themselves, learn about others, and build stronger connections, I always walk away just feeling really blessed. And the people, my clients, I'm humbled by all of them.
Well, let's talk about that because I know myself when I get people to see things through a different set of eyes, it just lights up my world, because there's like that light flash, light bulb moment. It just goes tick, and then all of a sudden they see things differently. When you get people to see relationships differently, the warmth in your soul must be phenomenal.
Well, I'll give you an example. One day I was sitting in the cafe, and there's a lot of mothers there. It's obviously their chance to get out and have a coffee together, and they got the kids with them. And there was a young boy who was probably about 2.5 or so, sitting in the high chair, and he was banging away at the table, and his mother was getting irate, and she's looking around at everybody going, what does everyone think? So I couldn't help myself, so I told her what I thought. And that was that I could see, not much what I thought, but what I could see, and that was he had a music trait. And I pointed out to her, I said, look, he's got a music trait. She thought I was being facetious. I said, no, this is what I do for a career. I read people. He's got a music trait. And if you bothered stopping for a minute and listening to the banging he's doing, there's a rhythm in it. And she listened to it, and then I talked to her a little bit further. And by the time as the conversation was going on, nobody else in the cafe was taking any notice of him. They were listening to the conversation. She was no longer taking any notice of the other parents or the other people in there. And when she walked out, she's holding her son, she's erect. She's got her son tight in her arm and everything else. I assume it was her husband. This guy walks across the road, meets her, and she's pointing at her son and talking, a big smile on her face. And I just walked off in the other direction after that because I didn't need the kudos. I just wanted but what I saw in their face and their response they were getting with each other, I deliberately walked away so they could enjoy that moment without anybody else around. I didn't want to get into a further conversation with them. I watched her talking to obviously her husband about their boy and everything else. And as I pointed out to her, if you're worried about changing the way he behaves and everything else, if he's got a music trait, use music at home. Go home, put different music on, see how he responds to it, see what lifts him up, see what puts, levels him down, quietens him down. So he'll know you'll know what music to put on to adjust his moods. You'll also know what sort of music he should have on when he's much older, he's at school and he's studying, what will help him with his studies and what will, take him the wrong way. So she got some life tips for the rest of the time that he's going to be with them before he moves out on his own. And that was all from that makes my life. That's the stuff that I really love seeing. And Kylie talks about her son and the pride that she has in him and everything else. That is absolutely the feelings I get from those people and others that I do work with. That makes my day. It makes my week. It makes my month. It makes my year. It makes my life.
Yeah, brilliant. I can feel it because I can see, and that's all it can take to change a life. It can take a moment of care to go over and sit and say, hey, it's not all bad right now. I can actually see this. It's actually, and it's funny because, quite often I'll never forget the day that I went to school and there's a grandmother picking up her child and he's in prep and he's flat out going nuts because his grandmother trying to take his iPad off him, like losing it, hitting her. And I've walked over, sat next to her. Everyone was staying away. I just sat next to her. I said, it's okay. You're doing the right thing. And I just sat with it. Who knows what that did?
Exactly.
But that in itself, that simple moment of support, she's feeling horrible, like that woman. You can change a person's life in an instant, but it's by sitting with them. You don't even have to say a word.
And can I just say to everybody who's listening to this, that's all you have to do. Just be yourself. Be there for somebody else. You may never know that the change you've made in their life. I remember the story of a young fellow who another boy was being bullied and everything else, and the other kids had pushed him around. He dropped all his books. He went over and helped him lift the books up and walked him back to the bus or whatever, went home. And he spoke to him at school. Many, many years later, when they've all grown up, he went round to see his mate. He'd been in the army. He came home and his mate's mother said that he'd passed away. But she said, I want you to see something. And she showed him the letters that he had written and the life that he'd made for himself just because this one fella had that little bit of time with him and just decided to show some compassion and just be there. You never know the impact you can have on people's lives. You don't have to have any special skills. The only skill you have to have is a heart.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. And a little bit of time.
Yeah, I adore that, because it's, from someone who was on the streets as a young bloke, got taken in by another family and got looked after. And, like John Damon today is still one of my mentors, like I had to challenge some values, some pretty heavy values a couple of years ago. I still went to see him, to sit with him and ask him, I'm taking on this challenge. Do you think it's wise? And it's all because he chose to, to just look after me. He didn't have to. He could have put his family in danger, especially the way I was back then, But it's that love can change a life, and it's bloody important. So I'm gonna move on along a little bit, because we are cutting through a bit of time now. Already half an hour. You and I talking half an hour already, believe it or not. The amount of times Alan and I sit down after a Thursday night live, and we sit down. So this was just 5 minutes. We'll have a quick chat, break down what happened, what I could do better, bits and pieces. All of a sudden, it's an hour and a half. It's ridiculous. So, visions. Let's talk about visions. Let's talk about what your vision is for the campfire. What is it?
My vision for the campfire is that it is still going long after I'm gone. That it's, I know that when we first started it, people talked about it being my tribe. My intention for it was always to become our community. It's, as they say, in that it's what you do for yourself dies with you, but what you do for others and for the world is and always will be eternal. And so that being the case, it's knowing that you've left something. That's been important to me, to know that I've left something of value. I don't need to be recognised for it, but the priority is that I know that I've done something of value. And then I know that what I went through and what life I'm living now has value, and it's been worthwhile. Yeah. And I think all of us need to and want to feel that we've got value. So, just being, and the only value that really works for me is the value that I feel in myself, not so much what other people say, oh, you've done a great job. Well, it's lovely to hear, but I ask myself, have I done a great job, and could I do a better one? And more to the point, I may have done a great job, but how can I then do it even better again?
Yeah, brilliant.
And by the way, I do love the campfire panels, and as I used to say, that you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. And thanks everybody who comes on the panel discussions with me, because I never get the chance to be the smartest person in the room.
I understand that, because you sit there sometimes, like last week was a fantastic example, speaking about Kundalini. I had no idea what Kundalini was, but I know now. I know, because I sat and I listened to people who have more experience than I did, and I got to learn. I got to sit there and ask a few questions, put a few things forward, see what goes, and I think that's the key to it. So, but I'm going to ask you, put you on the spot, because that's a good thing to do. 20 years from now, what do you want to see in the world?
Oh, number one, I'd like to see me still in it.
Note to self, Alan still wants to be here in 20 years. I'll take that. Importantly.
But I would like to see people actually lifting themselves up and not putting themselves down, not limiting themselves, realising that I know that the standard is that we don't stick our heads out, we don't step up, we always hold ourselves back, because when we do that, we fit in. Well, by fitting in, we rob everybody else around us. So really what I'd like to see is people lift themselves up, because as I say, people say, I've been helping people, I'm exhausted and everything else, and they go, well, why do you want to keep robbing them? And they go, what are you talking about? So why don't you withdraw, get some time, take some me time and build yourself back up again? But I've got to help these people. I said, yes, somebody else can do that who's in a better state, who can give them more. But right now you're robbing those people. So if your intention is to be of value to other people, get selfish. Be the best that you possibly can be, so that then you can give more when you are there helping other people, and allow other people to also step in and help as well. Because, as they say, somebody buys you when you buy someone a present, you feel good. But quite often we don't accept the present from other people. And I've had to learn that one. That's it. And I go, well, you're robbing the other person of being able to feel good. Allow somebody else to offer their hand, to offer to be helpful, because it's a two-way street. When somebody gives to you, yes, you receive, but at the same time, they receive by being able to give. They feel better about themselves and everything else. So I'd like to see people more lifting themselves up to help lift other people up, and being there for each other more so than just being there for themselves.
I'm listening to that, and I'm, that's a bit of pill that I've got to swallow at the minute. I really do. It's I've got to look after myself more so I can do more for others. And I think that's awesome. And I'm gonna throw something up right now, because this is something that I think is awesome. And I'm sorry to flick over to here because it was Janelle. I'm working two screens tonight. I'm impressed with myself. So
when I look that way, I'm actually looking at the screen on this side over here. I'm looking that, it gets confusing.
Oh, look, it's
there's no mirrors here.
No. Look, thank God there's no cameras on what's going on in here, because it's pretty. It looks good like this. Anyway, so this is from Janelle, and now Janelle's somebody I grew up with, and who's been a part of the Campfire Lives, been watching a lot and putting up some comments, and I just adore it. I love these sessions, helping others, reaching out and touching others in one way, shape or form. It's just a magical experience. Learning from all the different people on here is like learning from a never-ending pot of wealth and knowledge. Thank you. Now, Janelle, you need to step up in here too, because you've got a wealth of knowledge. So sorry to do that, but this is true, and like for people watching and being a part of this. This will only work to its fullest potential if we bring more people in, because I've been around the traps in life. I've seen a lot of different opportunities, and I know nothing else like this. I know nothing else like the Campfire Project, where we can talk about all sorts of bits and pieces. Anything's on the table, because we're going to learn from it. We're going to grow from it together. So, so Janelle, I'd love to, mate. I'd be honoured. Beautiful, Janelle. Good work. Yeah. So thank you. I completely lose my train of thought when I do. I've got to be careful with that. But it's such a fantastic thing to bring people in and learn, because that's what I was saying. Where do you learn? Like, one of the big things that I really want in life, my legacy I want to leave in life, is a toolbox. I want to leave a toolbox of tools for people to be able to work through stuff, because Mick also was on last week. I talk about him a lot because he's my first mentor, and it just really took me to the understanding that I need to learn. And the more I learn, the better I become, and the stronger I become. But the average Joe, in my eyes, doesn't know where to get those tools from. He doesn't know where to get all the bits and pieces. And if you're not sure on what to get, how to get it, inside the Campfire, there's pretty much a person for everything at the minute. And if there's not, we're going to find them, because it's just so important.
Yeah, we've got such a full toolkit. There's so much value in the people that have come in here, and everybody's told, they come in, they've told their story, they're supporting other people. Nobody is the be all or end all of anything, but together, everybody brings value to the table. Don't discount the value that you bring. Be willing to come in, bring more people in. The more this grows, I'd like to see this get out to where the media takes notice of it and everything else. It's still keeping the controls on it so that it's keeps its purity. I've been pretty strict on the if you want to put a post in the Campfire Project, you have to have done a one-on-one. You have to have some credibility, because you come in, you tell your story. And if you are a coach, you're running programs, etc., once you've done that, people have had a chance to actually see you for themselves and work out whether they like you, and then put your posts in here so that people see it. And a number of people are actually running events and other things. We're making a bit of money out of it. There's only one person who will never make money out of this. It was designed that way, and that's me, simply because this is a community that I wanted to bring together. And because of that, it's non-commercial for me. That if everybody else makes money by coaching each other, and that's fantastic. Somebody comes in and says, someone says making money. Well, if they're making money, they're helping somebody. And the focus is on the fact that they're helping the person, but also surviving by making some money through it as well. So yes, I'm quite happy for people to come in here and make money through this. They only make money because they've proven themselves and they're obviously helping the person they're working with. So it's a win-win.
And that really is a win-win. And that's a part of the Campfire Project that I've found out through my own dealings with members inside the Campfire Project is everybody's actually very approachable. If you see somebody on a panel, you see somebody doing a one-on-one, reach out to them. Because every single person so far that I've had dealings with inside a panel, I've reached out to, I've had conversations outside of it, and the growth in that is just beautiful. And I'm positive that people enjoy the engagement in that. So I personally would like to encourage more of that. I would like to see more people, bringing people in, but more connection inside the campfire. So I'm going to open up to questions if anybody's got any, because there is something that Alan actually does for a living. So he does profile people. So share with us what you do for a living. Share with us what are the nuts and bolts of Alan Stevens that keep you sustainable to do this.
Okay. What it comes down to is, as I said, everything's based on relationships. And so it's how to read somebody so that you can build a stronger relationship with them. And by the way, things like words like consequences, manipulation, all of those, they are not dirty words. They do not have a polarity themselves. It's a polarity we put on them. If you tell a child, don't run out on the road because if you do, you get hit by a car, that is manipulation for their safety. You're trying to stop them from going out and getting hurt. If you're manipulating somebody to make money out of them, well, that's still manipulation, but it's now got a different purpose altogether. So when I read people, I want to be able to understand how you like to think and take in information so that I can then change the way I like to be spoken to match the way that you want to be spoken to. And that way I can build a stronger relationship. Now, if that is in raising children, it's so the kids then grow up happier. We educate them in the way in which they need to learn their own personal style so that they grow well. If it's in business, yes, I might be selling a product, but I've already found out from that other person exactly what they really do need. And I then provide out of my toolkit whatever it is that will give them the greatest return. But basically, your facial features, and this may sound a bit woo-woo to some people, your facial features tell me your personality. But how it works is if you lift weights, you're going to build muscles up. If you do bicep curls, you're going to build your biceps up. If you do tricep extensions, you'll build your triceps instead. At the same time, everything we feel inside, we display outwardly. So if we feel anger, we're going to have an angry look on our face. So it's natural if we think in a certain way, we really concentrate and you get these little lines and everything else there, then that's because you do that over and over. It's a muscle movement. So your face, and the more as you age, your face is a roadmap of how you like to think and process, which is not your character, it's your personality. Two people can look similar. One could be a saint, one could be a sinner. But it just tells me how you like to think, not what you're thinking. But then I also work with micro expressions and body language, expressions, little twitches on the face, which unconsciously happen when something is said around you or something happens around you, and then your conscious mind switches it off. That's why I call it a micro, because it's very fast. So I use all those skills to be able to read somebody, and I teach people how to do that to build stronger relationships with each other and therefore work to building a stronger community.
So how did you get into it? How did you choose this as your profession?
Well, totally crap at it. When I first started, as I said, came to Newcastle. I was the youngest person in my depot and I was in charge of it. I was 23. My second in charge was 38. I had to get them on side. And one of the guys there is still a very good mate of mine. And every third Wednesday we get together with the barber and we get our hair cut at his place. So I built that relationship with him. In my mid-30s, joined the surf club, did my bronze medallion, became a patrol captain, got everyone that nobody else wanted, turned it into the patrol of the year, made myself redundant in there as they put me into the club captain's job. So I then put one of the guys into the head of the squad. They won the award again. So my whole process all my life is to make myself redundant. And that way I can always grow and move on. I can't move up if I haven't made myself redundant in that position I'm in. And then in my late 30s, my first wife left and I had 3 boys to raise on my own. And I learnt, and this is where the Aboriginal side of it came in after my second divorce. I was only married for a short time. I realised that my boys had more of a interaction with their mother. They weren't really connecting, or she didn't think that they loved or respected her. And I thought, if they didn't learn how to respect her, how are they going to respect other women for themselves in their own life? So I set on a path to build a relationship with her. And thanks to the connection I had with, and I know Auntie Delise is in the group here. She was one of the first people I met in the Aboriginal community, and I love her. The only, her heart is as big as, the great outdoors. She's a really lovely lady. And she made some connections for me, and through that I understood what it was to bring a boy into manhood. And then I started applying that with my boys. And then the Freemason side was the next level from there. So what got me into what I'm doing? A lifetime of making mistakes, but at least looking and going, how do I fix that mistake? What did I learn from it? And when I stopped worrying about what I was getting wrong and beating myself up and started looking at, well, what can I make out of it? That's when everything started changing. And I'm very thankful for the people I've had around me. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
That's fascinating. I love hearing that. It's giving me a lot of encouragement, because for myself, like I love working with people, and I've made a lot of mistakes. I've failed forward a lot, but it wasn't until I learnt to look for the lessons inside those that I actually truly started growing. So I'm going to, Angela Heisek, I love her, just popped up a question. How do you read yourself, Ellen? Give us your description of yourself.
Thanks, Angela.
Great job, Angela.
Well, when it comes to the facial feat, if you're talking about personality-wise, I can read myself the same as anybody else, because it's the dimensions of the face, it's the ridges and the crevices and all that. How do I read myself outside of that? Well, when people say, well, how do you describe yourself? And people say, I'm this, I'm that, and everything else. I'm a combination of all my experiences, or more to the point, I'm a combination of all the decisions I have made around my experiences in my life, how I've chosen to take those. So all of that's there as well. It's, I've got an image of who I like to think I am, but at the end of the day, am I that? Two people can two people can look at me, one can love me, one can hate me. Who's right? They both are in their own world. Yeah. All I can do is just try to be the best version of who I am. So if I describe myself as somebody who's always learning, as I say, the most important thing I'll ever learn is the next thing I learn after I think I know everything. That's why I've worked in so many different modalities and careers and everything else. And I'm just somebody who loves learning, but doesn't just do it for the sake of learning. It's also sharing it, because when you share it, that's when you know how much you've actually learned.
I love that, because
that's enough for you, Angela.
So, well, it's funny, because that's, at the end of the day, if you're not teaching what you've learned, you're not actually, for me, imparting what the whole point of learning is. Because when you learn something and you teach it again, you actually strengthen your conviction in what you're actually doing. But you're also, sorry, I just saw Angela's answer to that. So you're giving us a politician's answer, Alan. It's funny, because I think Alan's description of himself is quite accurate, because I feel you're an eternal learner, and I understand that because of what you do with the Campfire Project. Because, as you say, you're greedy, because you sit there and you learn from people. And one of the lost arts as such, or one of the true arts in life that people are drawn to, is the art of storytelling. And the stories only exist if you experience them and you see them and you feel the emotion. And like, you can read a book, but it's not until you actually see somebody read it. Or if how many times have you've read a book and then you see a clip, like a video clip of it, and oh wow, that changed my perception of the way it is because of the body language inside that. So I can think there's nothing the learner. The learner part came after I had commented. Oh, sorry, Angela. but it's like it's fascinating, like we talked about it the other day, about life and the bits and pieces. And, for people in here under their 40s and even into their 60s, like it doesn't matter how many mistakes you've made. If you choose to look at them as lessons, you can grow exponentially. I think Colonel Sanders was 71 when he started KFC. He made so many mistakes, and they weren't mistakes, they were just lessons. And I think that's the important thing. Like, I know for myself, the lessons that I've learned just since doing the Campfire project. Sitting there live, I just got to plug it in because the battery's going to run flat. But the only way to improve is to get into it and do it. So
no growth if you never want to make a mistake, then do nothing. It's the only way you can never make a mistake, and that's a mistake in itself. They always make mistakes in one way or another, because if you don't get out and do things, then you'll have wasted your life and everything else. You don't know your potential until you step out and test it. And you're going to get knocked down, you're going to get back up again. But the thing is, if you're really applying yourself, this is, by the way, if you're really getting out there and you want to grow, get some good people around you before you even go, because then you've got them to fall back on straight away, to go and talk to and say, hey, what could I do differently? How do you see this? Get the ones that are constructive, who actually support you. Yeah, somebody who'll give you a bit of a slap across the head with a wet mullet at times if they need it, but know that they're doing it because it's about helping you to grow and everything else. Because they're realising they don't want you to make the same mistakes that they've made. And by the way, if somebody gets up really upset about something because you're doing it in a way that they tell you you've done it wrong, then you can guarantee that mullet they copped across their head is one they've actually been hitting themselves with, because they've done it themselves. That's why it pushes their buttons as much.
Well,
I took ages to learn this. Why do you have to take so long? Listen to me.
I feel like I'm getting slapped across the face with a mullet again, Alan. But that's something in itself. Criticism, like it's we're not taught to take criticism. We're not taught to sit and listen to the criticism and find the lesson inside it. And I know myself, it took a long time for me to be able to take criticism and understand it. But now, with the way I am, criticism is one of my biggest growth tools. Okay, what don't I like about what they're saying? What is it that's really triggering me? Because it's only my opinion of myself that's going to allow that to happen. So, and if I break it down, and I often learn some of my biggest lessons inside some of the deepest criticism. So criticism for you, like how important has criticism been in your life?
Well, as you said, we don't like it when we hear it. If it really hurts, then we know that we're really coming from a place of ego. Therefore our ego is holding us back. It has been extremely important, because, as I said, I wouldn't have grown if I hadn't been making mistakes and without having somebody come along and go, hey, Alan, this is what you should have been doing. This is where you've made your mistake. Because if I made mistakes and realise I made mistakes and I don't know how to do anything about it, that's frustrating. I've got the pain, but I haven't got any way of moving forward. But to have somebody who, and as I said, constructive, they're not coming from a place of ego. One of the biggest issues today is that the standard of coaching is really broad, from really fantastic to abysmal. And a lot of coaches, they believe now it takes, from the time that you start telling them your troubles, within 70 seconds, they're giving you advice. There's no way that a person can have that information. So as long as the comments that are being made to you are about what you've done and how you can improve that, and not about shit that they haven't resolved themselves in their own lives, then fantastic. I want that every day. But if it's stuff that they haven't dealt with, don't bother talking to me, because one finger pointing, three fingers pointing back at where the real problem is. So they need to go and work themselves out first. But, don't just criticise, give reasons, discuss it. If you've got you think you've got some answers, discuss it with that person, because in the discussion, you'll work out whether you do have the answer, and the other person will also then be able to appreciate it as well.
Yeah. So what questions would you ask a coach? Because there's plenty on here. Which questions would you ask to get the right information?
Well, first thing I'm going to do, and this is where as I said, my profile people, first thing is going to be, I ask them, well, if they're going to help me with a problem I've got, I want to know what was their experience with that. So I'm going to quiz them, first of all, to know whether they have the ability to, they've actually had the experience, the wisdom and the knowledge behind it to be able to guide me as well. If they haven't been through it before, how many psychologists or academics who have been textbook taught, you wouldn't let them near anybody because they've had no life experiences. Knowledge on itself is one thing, but you have to apply it to actually turn it into experience, and then that then becomes wisdom. Knowledge is not wisdom. Completely one. Wisdom will have knowledge in it, but knowledge doesn't necessarily have any wisdom with it at all. It's only when it's applied. So I want to know the person can actually apply it, can actually help me. Then after that, I'm going to go, right, okay, this is what I've done. What did I do wrong? How can I improve this? How could I have done things differently? First of all, so I know in the future not to, reinvent, do the same thing over again, because how often we do that. But the next thing is, okay, how can I then change what I've got here at the moment? How can I move that forward? What's the next step that I need to do there? And I can trust in what they say because they've been through it. They're talking from a place of experience. And I don't want to have to go and go through the same pain they went through. They've got that knowledge, so I want to draw on that so I don't go through the same pain. Common sense.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Because one of the things for me is I'm starting to learn is how did you fail? That's a great question, because if people say I haven't failed, I walk away at that point.
Exactly.
Because,
right.
It's a really important thing, because the ability to be able to fail is the strength.
That's it.
I'm just going to, we're nearly up to an hour already.
Silvers can talk.
No. Oh, God, I love it. I'm going to just pop this one up quickly. This is from Janelle. I'm a psychiatric nurse. I've been doing it for 21 years, so I also use some of the tools in my assessments. Very interesting, Alan. And I'm bringing this up because it's something for me that has become pretty obvious in my life, that as I'm starting to get to, I'm moving up to mid-40s, and I've had a lot of different occupations. I've been in the pool game for a long time, but I've done a lot of different things. And I sort of feel like all those different things are starting to come together now. And it's like I'm still learning, I'm still getting things wrong, but I've sat back and reflected upon all the lessons I've had in life, and I can see how they're starting to guide me into the path that I'm taking now, which is, support men through different opportunities, and sit here at the campfire, ask questions, and really want to get to know people. So for people in life that are getting into their 40s and they've made a few mistakes, have you got any advice for them, and to sort of see how that can help them move forward and bits and pieces? Am I throwing it at you correctly, or are you going to pick it up nicely?
Now, anybody who's at that point in their life, I would say to everybody, first of all, is don't beat yourself up, because we make mistakes on things and they become mistakes when we know more about them. They weren't mistakes at the time because we didn't know enough. How many people beat themselves up because of what they did when they were younger, but they're beating themselves up with the knowledge they have today? So the first thing I'd say to everybody is stop being so critical of yourself. Don't be your own worst enemy. Be a little bit more gentle on yourself. Ask yourself, did I deliberately make a mistake, or did I make a decision based on the information I had, and was it the best decision I could make with that information I had? And if that's the case, get over yourself. Get over it, I should say. Stop beating yourself up. If you're somebody who just thinks you're too good, well, get over yourself. But the whole thing is that be more gentle on yourself. Just because you're 40, I'm pushing 70, getting close to it. I'm 68 at the moment, and long way to go yet. And I guarantee there's going to be a lot more years, because I'm not falling off the perch for a long time. I got the talons into the perch. I'm hanging on tight. but I'm going to be making mistakes to the day I die because I'm always going to be learning something new. Because if I don't learn something new, I'm missing out on a lot of things in life. And I'm a greedy bastard. I'm not going to miss out on anything. So I'm going to keep making mistakes. But I will always make sure that I accept the right people around me. And my people who have been teaching me are from the very elderly through to very young. Young children, I learn things from them as well, watching them play, watching them do things. Everybody can be your teacher. When people say, well, I'm a teacher, yes, I'm a part-time teacher, but I'm a full-time learner. I will always be learning. One of the guys in telecom, one of my trainers down there when I first joined back in, 1969, he used to come in the room and he used to say, what am I going to learn you today? And then one of the Aboriginal elders, many years later, when I turned 50, I heard him say, what am I going to learn you today? I'm going to learn you. And people would say, oh, it's bad grammar, but it's more accurate and it's more loving. You get more out of it than them teaching you. Because if I teach somebody, if I'm not learning at the same time, I'm not learning the best way to put it to them, learning and watching their responses to know whether I gauge myself, how do I change this, how do I add to it, I can't give them the best that I've got. So I have to be learning before I'm teaching. And I have to be learning while I'm teaching and after I've taught as well. And so I find people who can do the same, and I bring those to me. I go, rightio, if I'm going to try something new, I want to know who I've got around me in my support network that I can ask not only after the fact, but also as I'm going through and saying, hey, how do you reckon about this? Do you reckon this is right? But to do that, I have to know that they have the experience to be able to give me answers from their knowledge, from their experience, not just from what they've learned in a book or what they've heard from somebody else. And by the way, that comment you had there before, the nurse, the psychiatric nurse, when it comes to nurses, they are on the cold front, they are close to the people. I guarantee they know more than the psychologist because they experience the life, whereas the psychologist may only experience the textbook. And so the value, this is why, I say, I'm a nurse. Fantastic. I put that higher up in my category than the doctor. Because of the human connection. We know that healing, 20% of the medicines today, the surgery and everything else, of healing, medicine's only worth 20% of it. The other 80% comes from the rituals, a way that placebos have just as great an effect as a lot of our drugs. And in fact, a lot of our drugs only have a slightly better performance than the placebos, and the FDA will pass it as a valid drug. In half the time, we don't need the drugs. We just need the people who administer it, the way they talk to us, the rituals that go around it. So that nurse, I guarantee, has got a greater connection with her charges than the psychologists have, but she doesn't realise what an impact that she has on them because she doesn't hear them come back. The doctor hears the response, but she may not.
I adore hearing that because for me, that is life. The best medicine in life is having good people around you. And, I had to make a pretty big decision quite a few years ago about where I was going, how I was doing it. And when I found out I was the average of the 5 people I spent the most time with, I immediately looked at my 5 people and changed the circle of influence because it's all right to know lots of people and, spend time with people. But to actually know, Lance Piccioni actually talks about it, knowing the 5 people. Just having 5 people and know what they're for, know their finance, understand where your circle of influence comes from so that you can, you can always got a place to fall back on. Because I think in life, that's the biggest key to getting through opportunities is to actually know where your toolbox is. You may not necessarily have the right tool, but you can go through your tools till you find the right tool. But you need that toolbox to be actually find the tool. So I'm just going to sneak over here because there's a comment from a gorgeous guy, Russell Reeves. It's not any particular age. Continues. I'm 73 and a half, and I still need to get in Owen's head. But it's true, and I'm sort of glad he's not listening to this. But my stepfather, he's a gorgeous guy. I love him to bits. He's really done some amazing stuff my mum, and especially at the moment, there's a few opportunities. But when he retired, he stopped.
Mm.
He didn't do anything with himself. And for me, it's he doesn't think he has any value. And I'm on the contrary. Like, Oscar is the way he is because he's got his grandparents in his life consistently and continually. Like my mum, after she did the grey nomad thing, but as soon as Oscar was born, she was back, and it's been one of the most vital things in his life, let alone mine. So yeah, that's a whole nother conversation for that. We're at an hour and 5 minutes, young fella. So it does go quick, and I know we always talk towards the end of the hour, and it's always good. I just adore being a part of these things, and again, I'm going to thank you because it's given me an opportunity to grow. Every time I do this, I'm learning. I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the names that have popped up: Angela, Russell, Janelle, Adam Chelton. There's just it's always been for me the most beautiful place of knowledge. And I'm greedy when it comes to this, and I've learnt that from you. So instead of asking you for advice, one bit of advice tonight, I want to thank you for giving it to me. I want to thank you for providing me a platform that gives me an opportunity to grow because, I love it. You're a beautiful man, Alan Stevens, and I really love having you in my life. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And as I was saying, that my life has been enriched by everybody that we have around us, and to everybody who's listening into this. Yeah, if it wasn't for each and every one of you, the campfire wouldn't be what it is. If we want to make it greater again, get more people in here and, get involved in more. There's plenty of people around who are there to help you.
Yeah. No, beautiful. Well, on that, mate, I want to say a massive thank you. Next week, I'll put up some conversations I'm going to have. I'm going to change the Thursday nights a little bit. I'm going to start putting up topics of conversation and then getting panelists to come in that way. So once I've worked out how to do the bits and pieces, technology, it's a good thing for me to be learning. Then it'll be don't laugh too hard, Alan. You've seen me do some crackers. So the Thursday night lives, I'll start putting some stuff up and we'll start working from there. But to everybody tonight, from all of us to you, Alan, thank you. From me to you, massive thank you. And for everyone watching again, thank you.
We'll see you next time. Thank you all.
Beautiful. All right. Thanks, guys. Take care. And I'll see you. I'll share the warmth of the fire with you next week. Cheers, guys.